Then marriage before the age of majority is also high, and there are arguments that we've had when we went to Sokoto about what age a girl should get married. And some people were talking about religion and culture and saying that it doesn't have to be up to 16 or 18. Incidentally, if you look at the penal code of Sokoto, it talked about not having any sexual relationship with any girl under the age of 18. And anybody who does that has committed a criminal offense. And so these are some of the issues that came up. Child marriage was high. Issues around education, they did not perform so well. Antenatal and postnatal care, attending hospitals and clinics were also not an area they performed well. And if you look at the budgets, like other budgets, the budgets were not credible in terms of budgets were made, but you hardly found releases to address to these issues. And also, in most times, the budget that the vote they give to them is extremely low. But even the low monies that are appropriated, they never got to be released. So all in all, if you look at across the states, we made these key recommendations. One is that we need to make the budget more credible. We don't need a situation where you budget 100 billion, but you have only 50 billion or 30 billion. Two, once you budget well and it's credible, you must release the money. Three, we need to build the capacity of MDAs across the states, which we tried to do when we did a capacity building for strategic ministries in Adamawa and in Sokoto State. Let them understand what the key issues in sexual and gender-based violence is. Let them also draw up costed action plans. You know, not just a plan that is hanging in the air. It must be costed. And where the resources are coming from, we must get to know it. We also talked about interagency collaboration. It is not something left for the Ministry of Women Affairs alone. Ministry of Women Affairs could play a pivotal role, but it may not be the only one. We've discussed issues around poor access to education or poor education attainment, so you must bring in the Minister of Education. We've discussed issues around health, so you must bring in the Minister of Health. We've discussed issues about prosecution of offenders and investigation. You must bring in the law enforcement agencies and the prosecutorial agencies, especially the Ministry of Justice. We've talked about economic empowerment, because most of the times that women endure SGBV is that they are not economically empowered to be able to stand alone. And then the Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Industries will come in. We also know that there's no way you can talk about budget without Minister of Finance and Economic Planning. So we saw that there was a panoply of agencies that had to do collaboration and come together to make sure that SGBV is reduced to a minimum. We also talked about specific capacity in gender budgeting, gender-based budgeting, because you need to understand what you are budgeting for before you are able to get at that particular issue and solve the challenge through budgeting. We also talked about the role of the legislature, because in many of these states, laws like particularly in the 19 northern states, the attorney generals came together to say, we are going to ensure that VAP is passed across the states. And it's not common for you to see any state in the north that has VAP. And then to make a definitive pronouncement on the real age that a woman should be before she can be married. And so these are recommendations we made to the legislature. Of course, we told civil society not to rest on their ears, to continue the advocacy, to continue the research, and present these things before the people so that over time, all these wonderful ideas that we've been talking about will become things that can be implemented across the states, especially in the 6 states where we engage. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the findings. This is the report, the summary. As you can see, this is Adamawa report, because we are not talking about what we didn't do. This is Ebonyi report. This is the report from Ebonyi State. This is the report from the Federal Capital Territory. And this is the report from Sokoto State. And this is the report from Lagos State. So we did all this, and all these were done. We were working even when everybody was locked down to show the commitment and dedication, the zeal and passion and the vision we had about these issues that should make Nigeria great. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. And if there are questions and comments,